Hello, everyone, and welcome back to our health podcast. I'm your host, and today we are diving into a topic that might sound a little specific, but trust me, it is incredibly important for your longevity. We're talking about those subtle signs your body gives you, specifically looking at your urine. Have you ever noticed foam in the toilet bowl? It sounds trivial, but it could be a major red flag. Joining me today to unpack this and share the 5 things you absolutely must avoid for healthy kidneys is our expert, Doctor. Welcome, Doctor.
Thank you so much. It is a pleasure to be here. And you are absolutely right. In my years of practice, I have noticed that very few people actually pay attention to the color or consistency of their urine until the symptoms become severe. But the truth is, the toilet bowl can tell you a lot about your internal health.
It's true. We often just flush and forget. But I know many of our listeners might have seen bubbles or foam at some point and thought maybe the water pressure is just high, or maybe it's the toilet cleaner. But you're saying this is actually the starting point of some very concerning kidney issues?
Precisely. To help everyone visualize this, I want you to think of your body as a complex machine, and your kidneys are the ultimate smart filtration system. Every single day, your kidneys filter hundreds of liters of blood. Their job is to keep the good stuff like nutrients and protein inside the body and filter out the toxins and waste through urine. Now, imagine that filter is a mesh screen. When the kidneys are healthy, the mesh is tight, but when that filter gets damaged, the holes get bigger.
I like that analogy. So if the holes are too big, things that should stay in the body start leaking out.
Exactly. And the most critical thing that leaks out is protein. Protein is precious. It's the building block of your muscles. It should never be in your urine in significant amounts. When protein leaks into your urine, it changes the surface tension of the liquid. That is what creates the foam. So if you see thick layers of foam that look like beer foam and it doesn't go away after a few minutes, that is protein leakage. It's a distress signal from your kidneys saying, "Help, my filter is broken."
That is a very clear visual. Beer foam that doesn't go away. But doctor, I have to ask the question I'm sure everyone is thinking. Is there ever a time when foamy urine is normal, or is it always a panic situation? How do we differentiate between a harmless bubble and a sign of disease?
That is a great question. Not every bubble is a disaster. Sometimes, if you hold your urine for too long and release it with a lot of pressure, the force of the stream hitting the water creates bubbles. Or sometimes the toilet cleaner causes it. But here's the key difference. Physiological bubbles from pressure usually pop and disappear very quickly. They're thin and airy.
Okay, so if it pops quickly, we are probably fine.
Right, but pathological foam, the kind caused by kidney damage, is different. It's thick, dense, and it lingers. If you flush and it's still there, or if it sits for minutes without popping, that is abnormal. And if this happens consistently over days or weeks, especially if you also notice other symptoms like swelling in your ankles, puffy eyes in the morning, or constant fatigue, you cannot ignore it.
That swelling part is interesting. I've heard people mention waking up with puffy eyelids.
Yes, that's classic fluid retention because the kidneys aren't removing water properly. But here's the scary reality. Kidney damage is often a silent killer. It doesn't scream at you with pain in the early stages. It whispers. That foam is the whisper. By the time you feel actual pain or severe illness, the damage might already be very advanced.
That gives me chills. It's like the body is trying to warn us before it's too late. So the takeaway here is check the bowl, and if it looks suspicious, see a doctor. But beyond checking, we can proactively protect our kidneys, right? You mentioned there are specific things we are eating or drinking that might be causing this damage silently.
Absolutely. Prevention is always better than cure. You only have 2 kidneys for your entire life, and they're very hard-working organs, but we often overload them with our modern diet. Today, I want to walk you through the 5 most dangerous food groups that are secretly destroying your kidney filters.
I am ready to take notes. Let's start with the first one. I have a feeling it's something we eat every day.
It is. The first group is something many people think is purely healthy, animal protein, specifically red meat.
Really? But we're always told to eat meat to be strong, to build muscle. How can protein be bad for us?
It's not that protein is bad, it's essential, but it's about the source and the quantity. When you eat animal protein, beef, pork, and lamb, your body breaks it down into acids, ammonia, and urea. These are waste products that your kidneys have to filter out.
So let me get this straight. When we eat a big steak, we're essentially giving our kidneys a heavy workload because they have to clean up all that metabolic waste.
That is the perfect way to put it. Think of your kidneys as a waste processing plant. If you dump a moderate amount of trash, the plant runs smoothly. But if you dump truckloads of heavy industrial waste, which is what excessive animal protein represents, the machinery overheats. Animal protein creates a high acid load. To neutralize this acid, the kidneys have to work overtime. Eventually, this hyperfiltration state wears them out. It damages those tiny filters we talked about earlier.
That makes sense. It's burnout, basically. Your kidneys get burned out. So, does this mean we should all become vegetarians, or is there a middle ground?
You don't have to go fully vegetarian, but you need balance. The problem is that the modern diet is incredibly heavy on meat. We have huge portions. The recommended amount is roughly zero point 0.8 to 1 gram of protein per kilogram of body weight. So if you weigh 60 kilograms, about 132 pounds, you only need about 60 grams of protein a day.
60 grams? That's not actually that much, is it?
It's really not. A small piece of steak or a couple of eggs can get you there quickly, but many people are eating double or triple that amount, thinking more is better. It's not. It's taxing your system. My advice is to diversify. Swap out some of that red meat for plant-based proteins like beans, lentils, or tofu, or use fish and chicken, which are lighter on the system. It reduces the acid load significantly.
I see. So it's about giving the kidneys a break by diversifying where we get our protein. Okay, let's move on to the second group. What else is on the hit list for kidneys?
The second group is perhaps the most pervasive one in our busy lives: processed foods. I'm talking about instant noodles, sausages, canned goods, cold cuts, and fast food.
Oh, the convenience foods. I think we're all guilty of this. Sometimes you just don't have time to cook, but we know they aren't great for us. Is it just because they lack nutrients?
It's worse than just lacking nutrients. These foods are essentially chemical bombs for your kidneys. First, they're loaded with sodium, salt, which we will discuss more in a moment, but they also contain inorganic phosphates and preservatives to keep them shelf-stable for months.
Phosphates? Why are those bad?
Our bodies absorb inorganic phosphates from processed foods very easily, much more easily than natural phosphates from whole foods. High phosphate levels are toxic to blood vessels and can cause calcium to be pulled out of your bones, leading to calcification in the kidneys and heart. Plus, the additives used to preserve color and texture require intense filtration.
It sounds like we're asking our kidneys to filter out things they weren't really designed to handle in such large quantities.
Exactly. You're forcing a biological filter to process synthetic chemicals constantly. It's a recipe for disaster. And this ties directly into the third group, which often goes hand in hand with processed food: sugar and sweets.
Ah, the sweet trap. I know sugar is bad for our waistline and bad for our teeth, but how does sugar directly hurt the kidneys? Is it just about weight gain?
Weight gain is part of it, but the mechanism is more direct. High sugar intake spikes your insulin. Over time, this leads to insulin resistance and type 2 diabetes. And here's the scary statistic: diabetes is the leading cause of kidney failure worldwide.
Wow, the leading cause?
Yes, high blood sugar acts like a slow poison to the blood vessels. The kidneys are packed with tiny blood vessels. When blood sugar is high, it damages these vessels, making them stiff and narrow. It creates a condition called diabetic nephropathy. Essentially, the sugar glazes your internal organs, making them brittle and unable to function.
That image of glazing the organs is terrifying, but very effective. It really highlights why we need to step away from the sodas and the cakes.
It is not just the obvious sweets either. It's the hidden sugars in sauces, breads, and low-fat snacks. We need to be vigilant.
So we have animal protein, processed foods, and sugar. That's already a huge chunk of the average diet, but I know you have two more groups that are equally dangerous, and I suspect the next one is the partner in crime to sugar.
You guessed it, the fourth group is salt, specifically sodium. And in our culture, and arguably in the American diet too, we love our salty condiments, soy sauce, fish sauce, dipping salts, seasoning packets.
It's true. A meal feels bland without that salty kick. I know people who add salt to their food before they even taste it.
That habit, shaking salt before tasting, is one of the most dangerous habits for your kidneys. Salt is a sponge. It holds on to water. When you eat too much sodium, your body retains fluid to dilute it. This extra fluid increases the volume of your blood. Imagine a garden hose. If you turn the tap on full blast, the pressure inside the hose skyrockets. That is what happens to your blood vessels when you eat too much salt.
And that high pressure is hammering against the delicate filters in the kidneys.
Precisely. It's a vicious cycle. High salt causes high blood pressure. High blood pressure damages the kidney's blood vessels. Damaged kidneys can't filter out salt effectively, which raises blood pressure even further. It is a loop that ends in kidney failure.
That is a very clear explanation of the high blood pressure and kidney connection. I think many people treat them as separate issues, but they are tightly linked.
They are inseparable. If you want to protect your kidneys, you must control your blood pressure, and the easiest way to do that is to put down the salt shaker. You need to train your taste buds. Initially, food might taste bland, but after a few weeks, your palate adjusts and you start tasting the natural flavors of the ingredients again.
I can testify to that. I cut back on salt a few years ago, and now when I eat processed food, it tastes unbearably salty to me. Your body really does adapt. Okay, doctor, we've covered meat, processed food, sugar, and salt. What is the final fifth group we need to avoid?
The fifth group concerns what we drink, specifically carbonated soft drinks and alcohol.
We touched on soda briefly with sugar, but is there more to it? And alcohol? Well, we know alcohol is bad for the liver, but the kidneys too?
Yes. Let's look at soda first. Aside from the massive sugar content, dark colas specifically contain high levels of phosphoric acid. Studies have shown that drinking just 2 colas a day can double your risk of chronic kidney disease. It creates kidney stones and promotes renal failure.
Double the risk? That is a huge statistic for just 2 drinks.
It is. And then there's alcohol. Alcohol is a toxin. It's that simple. Your kidneys and liver have to work in tandem to filter it out. But alcohol is also a diuretic. It makes you urinate more than you drink. This leads to dehydration. Dehydration is terrible for kidneys because it thickens the blood and makes filtration difficult. It concentrates the toxins.
So it's a double whammy. You are poisoning the system with a toxin and then drying out the system so it can't flush the toxin out.
Exactly. Chronic heavy drinking causes structural changes in the kidneys. It creates swelling and enlargement and eventually scarring. If you combine alcohol with a bad diet, you're accelerating the aging of your kidneys by decades.
This is a lot of information, and honestly, it can feel a bit overwhelming. We're looking at our dinner tables thinking, what can I eat? But I want to pivot to a solution-oriented mindset. We know what to avoid, but there's a common belief I want to ask you about. I hear people say, to clean your kidneys, just drink gallons of water. Is that true? Can we just flush all these bad habits away by drinking endless water?
I am so glad you asked that because it is one of the biggest myths out there. Hydration is crucial, yes, but the idea that more is always better is dangerous. You cannot wash away kidney damage just by over-drinking. In fact, if your kidneys are already weak, drinking excessive amounts of water can be harmful.
Really? How so?
Think about the machine analogy again. If the engine is struggling, pouring more fuel, or in this case fluid, into it doesn't fix the engine, it just floods it. If your kidneys can't filter effectively, drinking too much water leads to water intoxication or hyponatremia, where your sodium levels drop dangerously low. It also increases blood volume, raising blood pressure, which we just learned is bad for kidneys.
So balance is the key word of the day. Not too much protein, not too much salt, and even not too much water. Just the right amount.
Correct. Listen to your body. Drink when you're thirsty. Monitor the color of your urine. It should be a pale straw yellow, not clear like water, and not dark like apple juice.
That is a very practical tip, pale straw yellow. Doctor, before we wrap up, if our listeners are worried, maybe they've seen that foam or they realize their diet has been poor, what is the immediate next step?
The immediate step is simple. Get checked. Kidney disease is diagnosable with very simple, inexpensive tests: a urine test to check for protein, albumin, and a blood test to check your creatinine levels to estimate your GFR, your filtration rate. These numbers tell the whole story.
Those tests sound standard. It's a shame we don't prioritize them until we feel sick.
That is the tragedy of kidney disease. We have two kidneys, and they are incredibly resilient. You can actually lose up to 90% of your kidney function before you feel significant symptoms. That is why we call it the silent killer. By the time you feel nausea, fatigue, or see blood, it's often stage 4 or 5. So please, don't wait for symptoms. If you have high blood pressure, diabetes, or family history of kidney issues, you need to be testing annually.
That 90% figure is shocking. It really highlights why proactive health is non-negotiable. I want to circle back to the diet for a moment. We talked about cutting things out, but people need to eat. If we reduce the red meat and the salty sauces, how do we keep our meals enjoyable? You mentioned herbs earlier. Can we elaborate on that?
Certainly. This is where the culinary adventure begins. When you stop relying on salt and MSG for flavor, you start exploring garlic, ginger, turmeric, lemongrass, onions, and fresh herbs like cilantro and mint. Not only do these add incredible flavor, but many of them are actually anti-inflammatory and beneficial for the kidneys.
I love that perspective. It's not about restriction, it's about exploration. Instead of a diet of no, it's a diet of new flavors.
Exactly. And regarding the protein, try to have a few meatless days a week. Or when you do eat meat, make it a side dish rather than the main event. Fill half your plate with vegetables. Vegetables are naturally low in sodium and high in fiber, which helps bind toxins in the gut so your kidneys don't have to filter them.
That's a great visual rule. Half the plate is veggies. Now, I have to ask about something strictly related to the modern lifestyle: supplements. I see so many people taking protein powders, creatine for the gym, or random herbal supplements they find online. Are these safe for our kidneys?
This is a critical area of concern. High-dose protein supplements can mimic the effects of eating too much meat, causing that hyperfiltration stress we discussed. And regarding herbal supplements, natural does not always mean safe. Many herbs can interact with medications or contain heavy metals if they aren't sourced correctly. I have seen patients go into acute kidney failure because they took an unknown herbal remedy to detox their liver or kidneys.
That is ironic and tragic. Trying to detox and ending up with toxicity? So the rule is consult your doctor before popping any pills, even natural ones?
Absolutely. Your kidneys are the ones processing those pills. Be kind to them. Treat them with respect.
Doctor, we have covered a huge amount of ground today, from the foam in the toilet to the salt on the table. If you had to summarize this into one core message for our audience to take away and implement right now, what would it be?
My core message is this: your health is cumulative. It's not one bad meal that ruins your kidneys. It's the habit of thousands of bad meals. But the reverse is also true. One good choice today, drinking water instead of soda, choosing grilled fish instead of a burger, skipping the extra salt, adds up. You have the power to protect your kidneys starting with your very next meal. Look at the foam. It's your body talking. Listen to it.
Your body is talking, listen to it. I think that is the perfect note to end on. We get so busy looking at our phones and our schedules that we forget to look at ourselves.
Indeed. And remember, protecting your kidneys is protecting your longevity. It's about quality of life, not just quantity.
Thank you so much, Doctor, for joining us and breaking down this complex medical topic into something so practical and understandable.
It was my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
And to our listeners, thank you for tuning in. We hope this episode makes you look at your lifestyle and, yes, your toilet bowl a little differently today. If you found this helpful, please share it with your family and friends. Kidney health is relevant to everyone. Stay hydrated, eat wisely, and we will see you in the next episode. Goodbye. Doctor, before we completely sign off, there is one more thing I want to touch on because we received a few listener questions about it recently. It's about the timing of eating. Does when we eat affect our kidneys? For example, late night snacking?
That is actually a very insightful question. Yes, our circadian rhythm, our body clock, affects every organ, including the kidneys. Your kidneys actually have their own clock. They are designed to work hardest during the day and slow down at night to rest, just like you.
Oh, really? I didn't realize organs had sleeping hours.
They do. When you eat a heavy, salty, or high-protein meal late at night, you are forcing your kidneys to wake up and work overtime when they should be in maintenance mode. This disrupts their recovery process. It also keeps your blood pressure higher during the night, which is a significant risk factor for kidney damage. We call it non-dipping blood pressure. Normally, your BP should dip at night. If you eat late, it stays up.
That explains why I feel so puffy and groggy after a late night pizza. My poor kidneys were pulling an all-nighter.
Exactly. They were running a marathon while you were sleeping. So try to finish your last meal at least 3 hours before bed. Give your system a chance to clear the workload before you sleep.
That is excellent advice. The 3-hour rule. I think that's a manageable goal for most of us. Another quick follow-up. We talked about processed food, but what about canned fruits and vegetables? Are those as bad as the processed meats?
It depends. Canned vegetables can be okay, but you have to watch the sodium. They often use salt water for preservation. If you use canned beans or corn, a great tip is to rinse them thoroughly under running water. You can wash away up to 40% of the excess sodium just by rinsing.
Rinsing the beans. I do that. It's good to know it actually makes a medical difference. And what about canned fruit?
Canned fruit is usually packed in syrup, which is basically liquid sugar. Remember our discussion about sugar and diabetes? It's better to choose fruit canned in water or its own juice, or stick to frozen fruit if fresh isn't available. Frozen is actually a great option because it's usually flash frozen without added salt or sugar.
Frozen over canned. Got it. These practical swaps are what make a healthy lifestyle sustainable. It's not about being perfect, it's about making the slightly better choice whenever you can.
Precisely. And don't beat yourself up if you slip up occasionally. Consistency is what matters. If you eat a high-salt meal at a wedding, just make sure you hydrate well and eat cleaner for the next few days. Don't let one bad meal turn into a bad week.
I love that. Don't let a bad meal turn into a bad week. That's a mantra for life, really. Doctor, is there any final myth about kidney health you want to bust? Maybe something about calcium. I've heard people say, don't eat calcium or you'll get stones.
Oh, that is a huge one, and it's actually the opposite. Most kidney stones are calcium oxalate stones. People think it's made of calcium, so I should stop eating calcium. Wrong. If you don't eat enough calcium, your body absorbs more oxalate from your food, which actually increases the risk of stones. You need dietary calcium from yogurt, milk, or leafy greens to bind with oxalate in your stomach so it leaves the body as waste rather than entering the kidneys to form stones.
Wait, so cutting calcium causes the stones? That is mind-blowing. I bet a lot of people are doing that wrong.
Many are, but note that I said dietary calcium. Calcium supplements are a different story and can sometimes increase risk if not taken correctly. But calcium from food, it is your friend. Eat your yogurt.
This is why we need experts like you. Dr. Google often tells us the wrong thing.
Dr. Google lacks context. Medicine is all about context.
Well, thank you again for providing that context today. This bonus round of questions was incredibly valuable.
I'm glad we could squeeze it in. Knowledge is the best prescription.
Ideally, yes. All right, everyone. For real, this time we are signing off. Take care of your filters, watch the salt, rinse your beans, and get some sleep. We will see you next time on the Health Podcast.
Goodbye, everyone. Stay healthy.